meetings with those contentious attorneys and bankers. But it's been a great partnership with a lot of people involved in it, and obviously the university is so excited, but everybody in Spartanburg, I think, is excited because of what it's going to mean to downtown and the numbers of people that are going to be coming and going every day. So thank you for all your help, and I look forward to seeing you come in our building.
Any questions?
Any questions or comments? Yeah.
Actually, I had a question.
Sure.
Is there going to be incubator space for offices? I've heard that at one point. Is that
Yes.
still part of the plan?
Yes, there is. The whole third floor is, well, actually, I've got a couple more slides in to show you. Yeah. Yeah, I'll show you that space. And this shows the city manager and the mayor in this picture somewhere that toured the building last week. This third floor you see is, and that's a huge space right there, about 19,000 square feet. That's going to be incubator space. It's not going to be finished out space initially, but as need is there. This is a sort of typical classroom. This is the dean's suite on the front side of the building. This is looking upward in our rotunda. The main entrance of the building goes all the way up 3 stories into that skylight. It's a really marvelous area. That's looking at it from a different angles, open all the way up. This is our large classroom, 80-seat tiered classroom with rows of seats there. This room will be available for executive seminars and meetings by people in the city. There's a crowd we took through there the other day. Any other questions? Thank you.
Craig, I'd just like to say we're very excited about y'all coming downtown and looking forward to being able to go down there, and it's going to create a lot of opportunities.
I was talking the other day, we haven't been able to get in the city limits out there where we were, so we decided to come on in the city.
We can work on getting you in the city.
Yeah, thanks.
You know, I better take 1 second, Chris, and recognize our attorney, Spencer King. Thank you, sir. You won't come back if we don't recognize him. Recognize him, we don't have to pay him. Now we're going to have 7's budget report. Chris Story, there's information only.
Yes, sir.
City manager.
Mayor, members of council, I just wanted to take a few minutes here. James is here in case I misspeak, and I'm grateful for that. But we have closed out the first half of the fiscal year, and we just wanted to take a moment to sort of regroup where we are in regards to the fiscal year 10 budget. At this point in the year, 2 quarters of the way through, we have a lot of data on how we're doing on the expenditure side, but yet still not a lot of data on revenue, because as y'all know, a good portion of the city's revenue come in the 3rd and 4th quarter of the year. So we're still dealing with a good bit of revenue uncertainty, and we'll talk about that, but expenditure-wise, I'm real pleased with the result. The big picture question is, of course, like any local government, we are responding to softness in our revenues that we've seen in a lot of places. But you responded early, you responded proportionally, you responded accurately, and we are confident that the steps that have been taken and others that we will discuss that will end the year in balance. But we'll talk about the points of uncertainty as we go forward for the next few minutes. But just to sort of regroup where we are on operating expenditures in the general fund, you can see that if we compare where the first 2 quarters of this fiscal year with the first 2 quarters of the prior 2 fiscal years, the expenditure restraint began, 18 months ago at least, in anticipation of where we would find ourselves now in terms of revenue. So you see that flat line with a decrease into this year, and that's indicative of departmental efforts to avoid any unnecessary expenditure and to control operating expenditures as best they can. And you can see there that trend began back in fiscal year 09, so well more than a year ago to do that. We look at personnel expenditures through the first 12 pay periods. You can see we're some $700,000 less than where we were this point in last fiscal year. And we're actually slightly less than where we were 2 years ago. And that is a rare thing in light of inflationary healthcare costs and other costs associated with personnel, so that is something of significance. Just to give you a little look back in terms of, again, the multi-year efforts to anticipate the need to contain expenditures. At this point, 2 years ago, there were 461 full-time city employees. At this point, 1 year ago, there were 456 full-time employees, and at the close of the second quarter of this year, there were 436 full-time employees. So through attrition and retirements and other activities and holding of positions vacant, that is why we've been able to realize that over $700,000 reduction there in personnel expenditures for the first 6 months of the year. One item of note that you see detailed in James's memo and in the report there is we have experienced in the first half of this year higher than average or higher than anticipated health care cost claims. Our claims experience has been higher. And as you all know, that can fluctuate pretty significantly from one month to the next due to a number of things that we just can't anticipate. And we're hopeful that with 4 or 5 steps that have been taken to contain those healthcare costs going forward, that we'll be able to close part of that $200,000 overage in healthcare expenditures towards the end of the year. But we will continue to monitor that. There was a slight adjustment to co-pays and a slight adjustment to the participation rates on the part of employees. And of course, we're just now starting to fully get momentum with our in-house nurse practitioner program, which we think will reduce the volume of claims there. So we're hopeful for a better third quarter than we had in the first 2, and we'll keep you posted on how that piece goes. Now, turning to the more uncertain side at this point in the fiscal year, and I'm sorry, that's going to be very easy for you to read, but I just wanted you to take a moment to be aware of our efforts to monitor some of our largest revenue sources and how they're trending. You can see from this initial slide that the budget that you adopted last spring was conservative relative to our experience in regard to these revenues. And then, as detailed in your memo, there was an adjustment made back in the fall to lower expectations for those revenues. And then the third column there on the chart is what we actually received in the prior fiscal year that, as we've closed out that, and that gives us another new piece of data, new benchmark to see how we're doing revenue-wise. And if we are able to realize just under 98% of those 4 revenues that are some of our more sort of uncertain at this point in the fiscal year revenues, then we'll be able to more confidently say we're going to meet our fiscal plan for this year. So we think we've been appropriately conservative at each step, but we will not know until the property tax bills are settled and all of those things hit exactly how we're doing there. But these are just wanted to give you a window into the assumptions that we've made and the things that we're monitoring about how those revenues perform. But we're confident that we'll be able to bring expenditures and revenues in balance for this fiscal year. We think that's a very positive piece of news in light of all the economic uncertainty.
Yes, because Chris, on page 6,
yes,
on property taxes, it says as of budget year to date, actually 9%, and 1 year ago it was 12%. So is that due to what you said, wait till it sells and see what the property tax is going to be?
Yes, sir, and that is with the timing of a lot of the property tax things, and there was changes as part of Act 388 that extended the appeal period, which was added another degree of uncertainty with that. So we've got a lot of timing issues there. What we hope is that we'll be back on pace in that regard in the coming months, but it'll take some time for it all settle out. We had a higher than typical number of properties go to delinquent tax sale, which you might expect with a period of high foreclosures and recessionary times, but what that means to the overall net collections over the next several months, we get to know. Any other questions about where we stand? FY10, anything you need to correct? Different?
Thank you, Chris. Chris, I did have one question. The county road maintenance